The morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the 42nd floor. Sarah stood alone in the empty office, looking down at the city far below. The glass towers reflected back at her like 1,000 mirrors, each one showing a different version of failure. Everything was gone. The company she had built for 20 years, her reputation, her savings, her sense of who she was. The scandal had come quickly. A trusted business partner had made fraudulent investments in her name. By the time anyone discovered it, millions had vanished. The board had no choice. They voted her out at dawn on a Tuesday morning. Sarah had dressed carefully that day. She wore her power suit, the gray one with the sharp edges. She wanted to look strong, even though she felt hollow inside. She took the elevator down from the 42nd floor for the last time as CEO. The numbers lit up slowly, 41, 40, 39. Each floor felt like a goodbye. Now, 2 weeks later, she was back. Not as CEO. The building had hired her as a consultant to help with the transition to new leadership. It was charity work, really. They felt bad about what happened. She needed the money. Sarah had agreed to work quietly, to avoid drawing attention. Most people at the office pretended not to see her. She stood by the window, holding a cup of cold coffee. Her phone buzzed. It was her agent again. Another rejection from another company. Nobody wanted to hire Sarah Chen anymore. She had become radioactive. The office was quiet at this hour. Sarah had learned to come early, before the crowds arrived. She preferred being alone. Alone, she didn't have to pretend that everything was fine. The cleaning supplies cart made a soft sound as it rolled down the hallway. Sarah recognized it. It happened at this time every morning. She didn't usually pay attention to the maintenance workers. They were part of the background, like the carpets or the walls. But this morning, she noticed. The man who pushed the cart was younger than she expected. Maybe 40. He wore the dark blue uniform of the cleaning crew. His name tag read Michael. But what caught Sarah's attention was what came after. A small photo was clipped to his shirt. A child's face. A young boy, maybe 6 or 7, with a huge smile and bright eyes. Michael began cleaning the hallway near where Sarah stood. She watched him work with a kind of gentle focus. He didn't rush. He cleaned each section carefully, respectfully. He even straightened the magazines on the waiting table, arranging them by date. Sarah looked back at her phone. Another email. Another company saying they had decided to go in a different direction. She felt tears starting to form, but she pushed them down. Not here. Not now. Excuse me, a voice said gently. Sarah turned. It was Michael, the janitor. He was holding a small wastebasket, asking silently if he could empty it. She nodded and turned away, embarrassed to be caught crying. But Michael didn't move. He stood there for a moment, and then he said something that stopped her cold. I know what it feels like, he said. His voice was soft and steady. To lose everything. Sarah turned back. She didn't know what to say. He was a stranger. He was a janitor. Why would he be talking to her? I used to work in finance, Michael continued. I had a good job. A wife. Everything was fine until it wasn't. He paused, looking down at the floor. There was an accident. A car accident. My wife didn't make it. I had medical bills and funeral costs. I couldn't afford the childcare I needed. My job required too much travel, and I couldn't be there for my son. He looked up at her. I lost my job. Then I lost my apartment. For a while, we were living in my car. Sarah found herself unable to look away. This man, this stranger, was telling her something true. Something real. I'm sorry, Sarah whispered. I know you are, Michael said. I can see it. You're carrying something heavy. He glanced at the photo on his shirt. That's my son, Thomas. He's 7. 3 years ago, I thought I had ruined both our lives. I thought I was a failure. What changed? Sarah asked. Michael smiled, and it was a real smile. Not the fake smile she had been practicing for weeks. A true, felt smile. I stopped caring what everyone else thought, he said. I took this job because it let me pick Thomas up from school. Because I could be there when he needed me. Because I got to see his face when I came home. I make a fraction of what I used to make. But I lost everything. And then I found something better. He paused. I found what actually matters. Sarah didn't speak. She couldn't. Something inside her was breaking open. You look like someone who's very good at fixing things, Michael said. But sometimes things have to break first. Sometimes the breaking is the fixing. He emptied her wastebasket and moved down the hallway. Sarah watched him go, her heart beating in a way it hadn't beaten in weeks. She went home that night, and she didn't look at her phone. She didn't check emails. She didn't scroll through business news articles. Instead, she sat in her apartment, and she let herself feel everything. She cried. Not the controlled, private tears she had been managing, but real tears. The kind that comes from deep places. The next morning, she came early again. Michael was there, cleaning with the same gentle care. "Thank you for what you said yesterday," Sarah told him. Michael nodded. "You're welcome. I've been thinking about what you said." "About what matters," Sarah continued. "I'm going to do something different. I don't know what yet, but not what I was doing before." Over the next few weeks, Sarah began to change. She took the consultant job seriously, but she didn't let it consume her. In the afternoons, she volunteered at a nonprofit that helped women rebuild careers after loss. She discovered she was good at it. She discovered she cared about it. She made coffee for their clients. She listened. She remembered what it felt like to be sitting alone, wondering if anyone would ever believe in you again. 3 months later, the nonprofit offered her a position. The salary was less than half of what she used to make. But it was hers. It was real. On her first official day, Michael passed her in the hallway. He was pushing his cleaning cart, whistling quietly. "I heard the news," he said. "Congratulations." "Thank you," Sarah said. "For everything. That day you talked to me. I was at the bottom. I thought there was nowhere lower to go. And now?" Michael asked. "Now I know it's not about how high you climb," Sarah said. "I spent 20 years climbing. I thought that was the point of everything. But it wasn't." She thought of the women she had met at the nonprofit. The women trying to find their way back. It's about what you build while you're here. Who you help. What you create together. Michael smiled. "My son asked me what I do for a living," he said. "I told him I make the building clean so people can work." He said, "That's important, Dad. Without clean buildings, people can't focus on important things." Michael shook his head, laughing. Out of the mouths of babes, right? Sarah felt something warm move through her chest. It was different from ambition. It was different from the drive she used to feel. It was something steadier. Something that felt like peace. "You were already fixing things," Sarah said. "When I met you, you were already making the world better. I just couldn't see it." "And now?" Michael asked. "Now I see it," Sarah said. "I see the whole picture." She walked down the hallway to her new office. It was smaller than her old one. It didn't have the same view. But when she sat at her desk and looked out the window, she could see people on the street below going about their lives. Real lives. Connected lives. That was enough. That night, Sarah called her mother for the first time in weeks. They talked for an hour. She didn't mention her old job or what had happened. She talked about the new position. She talked about the women she was helping. She talked about a man who cleaned offices and raised his son alone and somehow saw through to what really mattered. Her mother listened. When Sarah finished, her mother said something simple. "I'm proud of you. I was proud before, but I didn't know how to say it. I'm saying it now. I'm proud of who you're choosing to be." The words landed somewhere deep inside Sarah. They stayed there, warm and real. In the weeks that followed, Sarah built something new. Not an empire. Something smaller and stronger. A network of women who had fallen and learned to stand again. A community where the goal wasn't to climb higher, but to reach wider and deeper. And sometimes, in the early mornings, she would see Michael pushing his cart down the hallway. They would nod at each other, and in that quiet acknowledgement was everything. The knowledge that sometimes you have to lose everything to find what you were looking for. That sometimes the lowest moments are where the strongest things grow. That sometimes a stranger's kindness, offered in a moment of profound loneliness, is exactly what you need to remember who you really are. Everything had changed, and somehow, Sarah had finally arrived where she needed to be.